Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Faulty Effects. This is Tim and I am bringing you a tutorial. This is how to create what I call the Plexus logo. Let's go ahead and take a look, see what it looks like. Alright, that's pretty cool. Got all these shapes and all these different colors. Cool. Let's go ahead and just kind of dive into it. Alright, let's start out by creating a new composition. I am going to work in 1920 by 1080. Let's call this composition Plexus. And go ahead and hit OK. Now that the composition is created, let's create a solid. Hit Control Y on your keyboard. That'll bring up the solid dialog box, and let's call this Plexus field. It needs to be the same size as the composition as well. Hit OK. So now that we have our solid made, let's create a new camera. Just the default settings are fine. Hit OK. We're not worrying too much about this right now. Select the Plexus field, go up to Effect, Row Byte, Plexus, and here is the Plexus UI. We have all the effect controls over here. You will want to hit these arrows right here just to close them up. Otherwise, this area is going to get super busy. Alright, let's go ahead and add some geometry. Under geometry, we have a bunch of different options here. I'm just going to click primitives, which it's going to just default to cube. You can generate a sphere as well, but I am just going to go ahead and keep it on the cube. If you hit the C button on the keyboard, that gives you control over the rotation of the camera, so you can kind of rotate this around and see that it in fact is a 3D cube. Let's go ahead and change some of the settings here. Let's, under cube right here, let's change the Y points to 3, and let's bring the cube height down. And here's a little tip for you guys. When you click on a number and you start dragging, the numbers will move, but sometimes they won't move all that fast. If you hold down Shift, they'll move really fast, or if you hold down Control, they'll move really slow. Alright, so I'm going to leave them right about here. That looks pretty good. And I will minimize this. Let's go ahead and add an effector. I'm going to add a noise effector. So the noise is going to make it really go kind of crazy. We change the noise amplitude. That is the main setting for this. And I am really going to crank this up. And I am going to go ahead and set a keyframe for this by clicking the stopwatch right here. I'm going to move forward to about 4.5 seconds and kind of bring this down some. Let's say to about there. Let's take a look and see what we got. Alright, that's pretty cool. That was driving me a bit crazy. So now we got this animation here, but if you notice, all the points are just going in like a straight line. They're not kind of weaving or doing any kind of organic movement. So we go under noise details. We have noise evolution right here. So I'm going to hold Alt and click the stopwatch, type in time times 10, and that's going to create a little bit more of an organic type movement. And I don't know if you guys notice, but my After Effects came up and kind of blinked out there for a second. That's the autosave feature. I've had to do this a couple times in a row, and one of those times was because I didn't save it and After Effects crashed. So word to the wise: save, save, save. Set up autosave, do whatever you gotta do, but make sure you are saving your work. You don't want to have to lose it and start all over. That being said, let's get back to this. So now I have all my animation settings set up here. Let's go ahead and close this down. I'm going to create another effector called spherical field. What this does is it takes a sphere, starts it in the center, and then you can expand it and contract it, making different types of looks. I'll show you. Kind of pushes all the dots off to the sides. So I'm going to go ahead and create a keyframe for this right here, and then I'm going to go down here to about 4.5 ish, about right here, and bring this down to 0. See what we got. Alright, so I ran into a little bit of an issue there, but I figured out what was going on. So let's create a keyframe right here for sphere radius. And let's move forward to here. Bring this back down to 0. And there's the animation that I was looking for. So if we bring it over here, you can kind of tell that there's a sphere going on here. And that's okay. I mean, after we do all of our animation, that's not necessarily going to be noticeable, but I like a little bit more variation in there. So if we go to noise amplitude right here, and we kind of crank it up a little bit, it kind of changes that a little bit. There we go, that's looking a whole lot better. So I'm also going to select all of the keyframes and hit F9 on the keyboard. That just sets them to easy ease. Just makes for a smoother animation, I think. Let's bring these in a bit. All right. Let's go ahead and add some other different types of renderers here. We have lines, and I'm going to add triangulation. You can already see what's going on here. Minimize both of these. Imagine if all of these were still open. It gets kind of crazy. So we have the 3 different renderers here. We have points, render, and points, lines, and triangulation. Under points, basically this just controls the size of the points. Kind of reminds me of a Christmas light bokeh effect type of thing. I'm gonna just go ahead and leave that at 2. That's about it for that one. Under lines, let's move this out here a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to set both of these graph things to a smooth fall off. That way it gives the animation and what's going on just a little bit more depth. I'm gonna go ahead and bring this down to 2. Let's make that 3. And then I'm going to bring this either up or down depending on the look that I'm going for. As you can tell, it just kind of gives it a little bit more depth as well. Let's go under triangulation and do the same thing. I'm going to smooth out the fall off here. Bring this down to 2. That looks alright. And then I can bring this up and add a bunch, or take it back down and just have a couple. I am going to go ahead and leave it right about here. That looks pretty good. And that right there is the general animation for Plexus. Let's go ahead and add some color like we did before. So this is where I'm going to start using a couple different add-ons. I'm going to use the Video Copilot add-ons for the Visual Effects console, I think that's what it's called, and type in VC Color Vibrance. And I'm going to go ahead and make this the colors that I use for my logo. Which is right about there. Really pump up the vibrance. With this, if you bring the brightness up, it's almost as if it's reflecting light off of its surface from somewhere. I don't necessarily like that, so I'm going to leave it right down here, and then I'm going to bring the gamma up. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now you know nothing is done until you add some glow to it. So let's add some glow to this. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Don't forget to save your work. Okay. So that's the basic animation. It looks pretty cool. Let's go ahead and do some other stuff with this. So I want, with my example here, I showed you the different colors and everything. So what I did to do that was I just took this solid, hit Control D, duplicated it, went through here and closed all of these. See what I mean? There was a lot of them. And then I go under noise details, and then I change the seed for it. So remember what I was saying earlier. You can use Shift to move a lot or Control to move a little. Kind of looks like a shattered planet there for a second. So let's go under VC Color Vibrance and change the color to something a little different. Alright, that looks pretty good right there. There's not much of a glow to it though, so let's duplicate the glow. There we go. Glow, there we go. Anyway. So it still kind of comes in a sphere. I don't necessarily want that. One way we can get rid of that is through the spherical field and changing the field Z location. This will take the sphere and move it in Z space, either away from or toward the camera. It just gives the option to possibly give the edges a little bit more variation. And I'm going to go ahead and do that with the other one. Change the color of that so you can tell the two apart. Spherical. Change Z space. There we go. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I like that. I am going to actually bring this in though. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so, and in this one, you saw all the different colors here kind of coming together to create my logo. And how I did that was, I went to After Effects, or not After Effects, Adobe Illustrator, where I have my logo. I hit Control C. So I copied the paths, go back to After Effects, and I want to create a new solid. I'm going to call this logo. Put it over top of everything. Hit Control V. That puts the paths onto the solid as a mask. And from here, I'm going to add Plexus. So at this point, you can see that it disappeared. But what we have to do is add the geometry for it. So we go to Geometry, Paths, and there it is. I'm going to go ahead and add all of my other stuff, my effectors, as well as my renderers. And then close this out just to get rid of that window. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just do one of these at a time. You have to leave the points on so you can see what's going on, otherwise you won't be able to see it. Under Noise Effectors, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of leave it right about there. But with this, I'm going to have this starting out as a keyframe. Go toward the end, about right here. Take this down to 0. Under Noise Details, I'm going to change the noise evolution. Add an expression to it, just like I did last time. Time times 10. Hit enter. That way our animation isn't so linear. Alright, so the next thing is the spherical field. With this right here, I really don't care that it's going to be a sphere because that's the shape of my logo. I mean, I am more than likely going to try and adjust it a little bit. But for the most part, I'm just going to set a keyframe for this here. Bring it down here. And set this at 0. That way we get just a nice smooth animation. which also reminds me, with this highlighted, you can hit F9 on the keyboard and create those easy ease that'll just make the animation a bit smoother. I'm going to leave the points as it was. Let's change the lines here. Change the fall off once again. Bring this down to 2. You know what? I kind of liked it before. Let's go to 3. Okay, let's go to 4. There we go. That looks good. And change some of the fall off on that as well with the maximum distance. And then bring the line thickness down to 0.5. There we go. That is looking really good. Let's jump over here to triangulation. Let's take this down to 2. Bring this down. Add the smooth fall off. You can really tell the difference with this. Leave it on the smooth fall off. Alright, let's see what we got. That is animating really nicely. So just like the other one, let's go ahead and create some color in this. So for that, I'm just going to go down here to these. Grab these 3, hit Control C, go to logo, hit Control V, and there you have your color. I'm going to do the same thing with the logo as I did down here. With it clicked, hit Control D. There we go. I'm going to delete this color vibrance and bring in the color vibrance from this one. Control C. And I'm going to turn off one of these glows. So we have the same issue that we had before where one color is right on top of the other. So to fix that, we go under the noise effector, noise details, and we change the seed. Hold down Control while you're shifting through them. There we go. That looks pretty good. Save my work. There's a thunderstorm rolling through. Hopefully the power doesn't go out. Alright, let's see where we're at. Okay. Alright, that's looking pretty good. The one thing that I'm really kind of wanting to change is the amplitude on one of them. I'm just going to go ahead and change the amplitude on the pinkish purple layer. Just kind of gives it a little bit more variation. Alright, I like that. And then we can turn these other 2 back on. Alright, so through the power of editing, we are back. And this is what we have so far. It's looking pretty good, except for here at the end. I don't like all of the blue right there. So what I'm going to do is kind of alter that just a little bit. Go under the noise effector. And hit U. Go under the triangulation. Bring that down just a little bit. And you know what? I'm going to change the seed noise. Okay. There we go. That looks better. And then I altered where it landed in the layers down here. So what you're probably thinking is, hey, that doesn't look like the main example. Well, that's because it's not. My logo isn't there yet. So let's go back up to project. I have my logo right here. Click and drag down. So for this, I am going to hit F4 on the keyboard to bring up the blending modes. I'm going to change this to screen. Grab the two logos. Zoom in, and then I can use the up and down arrow key to try and put it into kind of where I feel like it should be. Kind of line it up along the letters and the edges and that type of thing. Alright, so that's step number one with that. And what we're going to do is hit the opacity. Create some keyframes. So for the logo solids, we are going to keep these here, and then let's put these at 0 so they fade off. And then with this, we want this to stay about right there. Come to about here, I would say, and bring this down to 0. Let's take a look and see how that looks. Alright, and we're back. That is looking pretty good. Yeah, I think it's good. Oh, let's bring this back over here. Bring this here. Alright, so another thing in the first one, you can see like right here where it's a bit on the blurry side, but all the rest of it is pretty in focus. That is depth of field. So how we do depth of field on this is we go under the camera, hit A, hit A twice, depth of field right there. And that reminds me I need to save my work. Click on each one of these, go to Effect Controls, and we're going to go under Plexus, right here, required for DOF and motion blur. Make sure that's clicked on, and then change depth of field right here to camera settings. And that's it for this point in time till you get everything right and looking the way you want. All right. So now that we have depth of field on for each layer, you can see perfect example right here. Didn't even have to move it up here and here. There's these artifacts. That is because of the render quality. After you get everything where you want it, you go here, change this to anywhere from 6 to 8. Those will give you the best options, or the best result. And you can render it from there. If what you're wanting to be in focus is not in focus, you can go under camera, change the depth of field by the focus distance and the aperture. Let's see what is in focus in mine. Alright, so I am going to change this up a little bit. Bring the aperture up. It gives it a little bit more blurriness around here. I want to get this a bit closer to where the logo is at. Okay, right there looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go ahead and render this and see where we are with the motion blur. I'll be right back. Alright, and I'm back. Here's what we got so far. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Yeah, I like that. Not so much this. Let's see if I can clear this up just a little bit. There we go. Let's go and let's move down here. Okay. Okay, that looks cool. There we go. Alright, I'm liking this. Let's go ahead and pump up the render quality. I'm just gonna go ahead and put it at 8 for each one. Now you see all of those artifacts are gone. But look at how long it takes to render a frame. Right there. How smooth that blur is. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to jump back here to the beginning and I'm going to render this. So you guys can see what the final product is, and I will be right back. Alright, and through the power of editing, I am back. So here's what we got. That looks pretty cool if you ask me. So from here you can add sound, you can add other different types of effects if you want. Your limit is only your imagination. Alright, so I'm glad you guys checked out this tutorial. If you liked it, please feel free to share it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you can see whenever I post more videos. Hit the notification button so that you get the notifications for it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I will get back to you. Thanks for watching.